Welcome, everybody, to the Vigilant News Show. We're going to be covering some awesome stories today. We got the ICC seeks arrest warrants for Netanyahu, Hamas leader of Sin War, for crimes against humanity. That's a pretty big one. We got the FDA says it's preparing for another pandemic with the bird flu. Judge in Trump case says she's concerned with special counsel Jack Smith. And then we have this article that Ryan found over the weekend about a satanic cult or gathering of people in Iran that happened last week. So we'll get into some of that today. What you got for us, Ryan?
More news regarding Iran. They are announcing their interim president after Raisi's helicopter hit a mountain and disintegrated. We'll talk about his death, the VP taking over, and then mention some speculation about who may or may not have been behind that. We've got the OnlyFans owner pledging $11 million to the Israel lobby, becoming the largest donor to APAC. And then some news regarding WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He's granted the right to appeal his extradition to the United States.
Awesome. Well, yeah, welcome to the Vigilant News Show, everybody. We're back on our home platform here on Rumble. We've been on another platform previously, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's good to see some of our favorite friends in here. We're actually live on YouTube as well. So if the show is a little bit more, let's say, YouTube sanitized, then we're trying to walk the thin line here, but I think we'll be okay. So yeah, it's honestly, it feels good to be back. Feels good to be on our own steam here. So much love to everybody there. Hopefully everything's going well with everybody out in the world. And yeah, I just confirmed we are live, in fact. So that's awesome. Yeah. So go ahead.
Well, the YouTube thing, we're going to try to start reaching. There's this huge fertile ground. You know, we've got people in our community, the more Anon, Patriot America First community. But there's this growing pool of people in the middle who, for whatever reasons, they're programming, whatever, they're just kind of currently averse to the Trump and definitely the more speculative Anon kind of stuff. But there's just this fertile ground, and we're going to try to get back on YouTube to reach those people. So we're going to spread everything that we've learned since 2016 over there in a way that doesn't drive people away, where we're conscious of the words we're using, but we're getting that anti-establishment message, anti-deep state message to a greater audience. Yeah,
exactly. Because, that's part of the reason we do all this is yes, we do it because we're passionate about the things we think are happening. We want to share that because who doesn't like to have, their beliefs validated by sharing them with other people? But, we also know how important the information war is and how important it is to get these ideas not just to our fans and our friends and family, but to the greater community at large. And hopefully if we're following the truth right, if we're using our discernment, then we're actually helping to wake people up and red pill them at the same time. So we're excited about that. And yeah, it's good to see some folks here in the chat. Let me just go ahead and put some, I see we got Crystal Clear 17 in here, Elise Wood, Johnny Midas, some on YouTube, Lulu here, of course, the lovely, illustrious Pink Pearl V, my wife. So, yeah, guys, I guess we'll get into what happened recently. So, we are no longer working with Badlands Media, and we wish them the best. Truly. Well, go ahead. You want to get into it?
Well, I'm still going to be writing for the Substack, as far as I know.
Okay. So, this isn't a forum to talk about anything of private matter. I don't like doing anything like that. So I just want to say that, truly, I mean that when I say we wish them the best. I don't want anything bad to happen to their platform. I think they've got some amazing people over there, some amazing content creators, and they do some amazing work. And Ryan and I are just in a position to give them a little more love to the Vigilant News platform. Things did not turn out the way I would hoped, but that's okay. These things happen, especially in business. So, like I said, we wish them all the best, and we've got some really big plans, actually, for this platform. So what we are going to be doing is not only our new show that we do every Monday, which we might change the slot up a little bit, but we're also going to be probably doing a bunch of other things. I won't say too much right now because it's very fluid at this point, but we've got a lot of awesome things in the works. And I don't know, Ryan, do you think we should tell them about what we were planning yesterday?
Yeah, I think it would be worth mentioning to everybody to kind of gauge people's interest. It's something we're doing regardless, but there's no reason we shouldn't start plugging it now. I mean, we
Yeah,
don't
definitely.
we don't have as many ads to read anymore, so
That's true.
maybe we just read our own ads.
Yeah. Well, we got, thankfully, I'm a good friend of Lance Shuttler, the CEO and founder of Ascent Nutrition. I actually work for Ascent Nutrition, so that makes it easy. And so he agreed to actually sponsor us and to sponsor this event we got coming up here. So you will be hearing about all the amazing and fantastic products at Ascent Nutrition as a regular part of Vigilant News, at least for the time being. And as far as this event we're talking about, so I guess as a preamble to this, Ryan and I have had the dream and the desire to do, events for what would you say? What was the time you would put on that? I've been kind of wanting to do it for a really long time, but when did it first get into your head?
The event thing. I used to do events a lot. What were you saying? Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just asking, like, when did you want to start getting into doing events?
Oh, well,
yeah.
I used to put on shows, house shows back in the day, parties, get-togethers, stuff like that in the college town I lived in when I was a young man. So I'm a natural at that kind of thing. So doing it in this community is something that has kind of been in the back of my head. But we used to be part of another community, the disclosure community, and I got to see firsthand what goes into some of those events. Watching a friend of ours, Adrian, run around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to operate these huge events that ended up being like a lot of fun for a lot of people. But like I saw the work that went into it, and I was like, well, without a big team, it's probably not something that's going to be too easy to pull off.
Right.
And then I got, through the Garts. The Garts were great, and it seemed like they were a lot easier than what Adrian was trying to do with Dimensions of Disclosure. So I saw that it could be done different ways. And then a good friend of ours, Raj Doraisamy, Defend the Union, Defend Florida. He's got a bunch of organizations. He puts on these webinars, and they're great. They're a lot of fun. So, we've been kind of thinking about it, and eventually we'd like to do more in-person kind of events just for the community building aspect. We always talk about community building in the show. I think it would be great to do in-person events, but just to cut our teeth, to kind of get our feet wet, we're going to try to do some online conferences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So this is drum roll, please. So this is probably going to be our first major event here. We're going to try to do more of them. And, one of the things we like to do with these is have a lot of community time, because community is one of the biggest things, like you were just saying, Ryan. So without further ado here is the event that we were talking about. It is going to be a Trump birthday party. So for those of you who don't know, Trump is having his 78th birthday on June 14th. And so we thought, what would be cool is if we had like a telethon style event for his birthday. And, the whole point is to kind of create just like with the Patriot movement, let's set aside our differences. Let's stop bickering about the things that don't matter. Let's just take the time to rally around a worthy cause, rally around arguably the greatest patriot in living memory, and have an event for Donald Trump's birthday. So this is, very new. We've been planning this in some form or another for a couple weeks now. So at least a couple weeks, more like a month maybe. But we actually started to do some major work on it yesterday. So check this out. We're going to be, eventually we have a website. So djtparty.com will be the website. It is going to be on the wrong date there. It says July 14th. It actually should be June 14th. But in any case, yeah, so this should be a really cool thing. We're really excited about it, and let us know what you think about it, because we're going to have lots of audience participation, segments, and a birthday card. So you'll actually be able to wish Donald Trump a happy birthday on a digital card that we're going to send to Trump once this is all over with. So, yeah, there you go. All right, everyone. Well, let's get into some news stories. I know we don't have a whole lot of time to work with today. So
actually, so I saw people mentioning Dauntless in the in the chat, and there's a lot of stuff we're doing with Dauntless. He might even be involved in some of these events we're planning. But the reason the show is going to be a little shorter today is because I actually have to hop on a call with Adam Riva and this other filmmaker to discuss the next script. So yes, all the content train with Dauntless is still rolling, and yeah, that's why we're going to have just a slightly shorter show today. But yeah, so I guess where to start? Maybe we should play these clips.
Okay.
First.
Let me go.
And I'm wondering, maybe you should pull it up for the Telegram section, because I think the way I have my audio set up might not work.
Okay, no worries. I think I got it. So we got. Let's see. I shared that one, which is only a small one. But where
go up to where the military girl is. Sorry, guys. Up. You'll see where it stops saying today.
Okay, I'm going.
Right there. There we go. There it is. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. So this was.
Oh, it's below this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So this is just like an intro to what we're going to be talking about here in a second, which is the death of the Iranian president.
All right.
Iran's president is confirmed dead. Rescue crews who arrived at the site of a helicopter crash hours ago say they found no survivors. Drone footage shared by Iran's state media shows the wreckage on a remote hillside. Crews arrived there early this morning after battling difficult weather conditions and terrain. Along with President Ibrahim Raisi, Iran's foreign minister, and 7 other people were on board that helicopter. Raisi was a hardliner who had been seen as a possible successor to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khomeini.
And Jeff, I do want to bring people's attention to the WRL Live Center. Good morning. I'm Chris Lovingood here, just to show you that Lebanon has begun 3 days of national mourning over the deaths of Iran's president and foreign minister there. You'll just see that's just the text there from the Jerusalem Post. And this is that photo again of President Raisi, his chair empty with the black sash and his photo next to it. But in addition to people who are mourning that president's death, I should also note that there are people who are celebrating as well. This is from Iran International, a news agency in Iran, but the English-speaking portion of it based in D.C. And you'll see that right here in this celebration, there are people that are actually firing off fireworks in celebration of this. I've seen different people talking about this in social media feeds, saying that the people who are celebrating only represent a small amount of it. But again, this is just what people are saying online. But just to show you the juxtaposition between after that president dying, and there are people celebrating, but people mourning as well.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, you mean so people in these countries just don't all have the exact same uniform opinion?
Right.
I mean, like, it's so tempting for people to be like, the Jews think this, and the people from Iran are all terrorists. And it's just like here, there's a whole spectrum of opinions. And that's why, when people say, well, we can't give aid to Gaza because every single Gazan supports Hamas, it's just as ridiculous as saying that everybody in Israel is in support of Benjamin Netanyahu. So
right, 100%. Yeah, I mean that's crazy. I forget exactly what the preamble. It didn't have something to do with the pandemic treaty, or maybe I'm thinking of another story where there were countries that resisted the pandemic treaty, and within days or weeks, they started having weird things happen to them. So
yeah,
very interesting. All right,
very interesting.
What's this one here?
So this is a little bit on Michael Cohen and the crimes he committed against Donald Trump.
All right.
Finch. And Cohen confirms that he owed Red Finch 50 grand and never paid the full cash. Trump's attorney, Bland, says, you stole from the Trump organization. Cohen says, yes, sir. He also confirms lying to Alan Weisselberg. I don't know how many that is on the list, but that's another prevarication. And Cohen says he never pleaded guilty to larceny. On they go. Blanche presses Cohen. You did steal from the Trump organization based upon the expected reimbursement of Red Finch. And he says, yes, sir. So that's Finch.
All right.
And Cohen confirms that he owed Red Finch 50.
But we're supposed to just take this guy's word for it that Donald Trump is definitely a criminal.
Right.
And this man is obviously a criminal himself.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you the state of the desperation, which is, in a way, it's a good news because, if they were, the people have been saying this for years, but if Trump really had anything other than being squeaky clean, we would know about it. And yet this is the severity of the accusations against him. A known criminal and liar is accusing him of doing something. And even if he did do it, that's not necessarily even a crime per se, but they're trying to frame this as election meddling simply because his lawyer paid Stormy Daniels on his own recognizance and Trump had nothing to do with it. At least that's the claim. Totally desperate.
Yeah.
So then what we got here?
So this is I saw this on We the Media, and I thought this was it's about a 3.5-minute clip, just kind of like showing us the state of of black voters in their opinion on Joe Biden as of late.
Biden, I really feel like he making everything harder for everybody. Got everybody jump through hoops, just do extra things.
He wants to make it seem as if he's for the blacks, and he's not really, because he hasn't really helped anybody. And I don't like the fact that he's even sending weapons to Israel when it's people here that still need help. And I hate to say this, but people that are immigrants that's coming here, their friends they here, because I work in the medical field, they already have Medicaid, and it's people here that are still on the list waiting for it. So
I think he's fine, but I think he's getting a little up there in age, and so his incontinence is really not as quick as it was at first.
I feel like the black community don't really like Biden because, like, when I go on the streets and stuff and I talk to my homies, they don't really be Biden like that, you know what I'm saying? They say Biden really ain't do nothing. They really like Trump better. I ain't gonna lie, because Trump had the money coming in, he had the stimulus checks coming in, you know what I'm saying? You could do a lot of, you know what I'm saying, under the table stuff with him. But Biden, I feel like he get a bad rap.
I like him and what he stood for up until this whole thing with Palestine. That kind of messed it up for me in a lot of ways. He came from humble beginnings, so I respect that. Because, like, Trump, he was born rich. He was born into a rich family, things like that. But Biden, he came up by himself, but also he's funding genocide. So I don't really like that.
He's a good guy. He actually helps the urban community. I see stuff get improved since then, and he brought new jobs in too. So kudos to that. And then I think that he's keep on going with the Medicaid. So people need Medicaid because health insurance is real high now. And as long as he's providing more jobs for people to work, and basically if it's a nice high rate, then he got my vote.
He could try again another time. Yes, yeah. He could, he could take a break. It doesn't make sense not to give someone else a try. And then they try to arrest Donald Trump, but they don't really have anything on him.
I'm probably be the only black person to admit it, but I want Trump back. I'm sorry. Last time I checked, who signed off on them stimulus packages? He did, even though we didn't have the money to do it and put us more in debt. It didn't put us in debt. It put the country in debt. But we don't feel what the country debt is. We don't. We only feel it when we go buy some grapes and it say $17.
I like Trump.
Trump, what he is doing, Trump has helped out a lot of people in the community, helped out a lot of black businesses. And I'm voting for Trump.
Before Trump got out of office, there was some money circulating. And now that Biden is in, it's crazy. I mean, not to say that it wasn't crazy with other things. I'm saying financially, we had stimulus, we had self-employed tax credit, things of that sort.
President Trump, even though he might not be a good guy, like on the political side of things, he made sure black people was good. African American people were good.
Even though I don't like Biden, I would much rather vote for Biden than Trump. And as a black woman, that is not something I can stand for at all.
I mean, honestly, I like Trump. Like, it was a lot, like, going on, like, in the news and the media. So, actually, like, I'm okay with Trump coming back.
He's just Daddy Warbucks, and he's just a genius, as far as I know,
Nice. That was a great segment.
Wasn't that nice? Where they were filming a lot of that looked like a castle behind him, kind of? Yeah. That's the water tower in Chicago, and it's like a block away from the condo I used to live in. It's also right down the street from where what's his name? Juicy Smollett was assaulted by his own buddies. It's all in the same area. Yeah. So it's the water tower in Chicago on Like it's the main strip. I forget what it's called. Michigan Avenue, Michigan Street, whatever.
You know, I feel like a lot of the people who were liking Trump secretly, I now have a more bold reason to do it because it's a lot more favorable conditions. Do you think that some of these people had always liked Trump or that they flipped recently?
I mean, it just depends how activated people are, how much they're actually paying attention. The problem is that a lot of people, if they would actually spend time kind of like digesting and thinking about what's happening in the world, I think most people would actually be behind Trump more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like different things force different people to start paying attention. You know, COVID was a big one for a lot of people, as we saw at the Next Steps event with all those nurses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the war is starting to catch a lot of people, especially on the left. And different things are going to bring different people to the table. So I think a lot of them probably at first were just inundated with the propaganda. Obviously, this one woman still is, because she says, as a black woman, I can never support this. And then in the very next frame, it's a different black woman talking about why she loves Trump. So yeah, it's hard to say, but something will happen. Ostensibly, this is all a war of narratives, like Burning Bright always says, a war of stories. Some point the story is going to affect this woman who, you know, can't never vote for Trump. Something's going to happen in the war of stories, assuming our team keeps winning. That's going to bring her to the table. I think it's going to happen to everybody at some point.
Yep.
And it's just going to be the most deranged people who are never going to be able to admit that they were wrong, that, you know, don't come around eventually.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that there's something up their sleeve, you know, whether it's the white hats, the cabal, anything, something's going to be coming down the pike that's going to make all this come to a head in a big way. I just don't know what exactly. So that seeing this was pretty reassuring for sure. So, okay, so what do we got here?
This is kind of playing on what we just watched. It's a podcast instead of just a man on the street thing, but basically the same sentiments.
One of the things that I wanted to highlight was that, you know what, you know, you're in trouble if you're a Biden supporter. If you're somebody that's planning on voting for Biden, if you're somebody that wants Biden reelected, you cannot just turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to what is transpiring before our very eyes. There are black folks in America who have turned to supporting Donald Trump. That is just a fact. And what I wonder, and I say it, it's not just because of that's a reason to be worried about him returning to the White House. It's also the fact that the level of support that Barack Obama garnered not just once, but twice, in terms of the inordinate amount of people emanating from our community willing to go to the polls. That wasn't necessarily the case with Hillary Rodham Clinton. And I certainly have no reason to believe it's going to be the case with Joe Biden in 2024. I think that there's going to be a lack of participation, meaning voters showing up to the polls to vote for him. You're going to see some that just don't show up. That's a concern I have.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, okay.
There it is. All right.
You're losing him, Joe.
Yeah, he's I keep forgetting that we're on YouTube, so I got to be careful what I say. But let's just say that there might be some people who aren't considered black anymore.
No, that's right.
So
we don't have to play these because you can kind of see them here. It's just, you know, thousands taking to the street in Tel Aviv, Israel, demanding the overthrow of Netanyahu's government. You know, they were doing stuff like this. Yuval Noah Harari was stoking the more left-leaning contingent of the Israeli population against Netanyahu prior to all these events. You know, and it's just like anywhere else. Like, we want to always look at it through the lens of, you know, like there's a good side and a bad side in every one of these countries. And it's just not that simple. I mean, it might seem like that to us here because it seems like it's like a side that actually seems to have our back is against these deeply entrenched international, you know, like the military industrial complex, deep state, what have you. But yeah, it's not always so simple. And even these guys that we think are on our side, no, it's like we won't know that until this whole thing is over with. You know what I mean? Because most of the time when one superpower replaces another, they end up doing the same thing. So that's all yet to be seen. It's just something to keep in mind going forward. But yeah, so there is still some civil unrest going on in Israel. And they actually beamed in Hillary Clinton to send a video message to the crowds.
No, really?
Yeah, they beamed in Hillary Clinton. And they also, there was like German ambassadors and stuff like that, the UK. But it's funny because, you know, ostensibly they're trying to appeal to this like anti-war side. I mean, the thing is that a lot of the left in Israel does still support the war and everything that's happening. They just don't like the Netanyahu government for their own reasons. But it's crazy because if it's the Israeli establishment that they're supposedly like protesting against, Bill and Hillary Clinton were a big part of working with the Israeli establishment when they were in the office. So it's just weird. It's just like, you know, it just goes to show you that people are being manipulated everywhere, and Israel is no different.
Oh yeah, exactly. The intelligence agencies are equal opportunity manipulators. So
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I think
looks like you threw in this one more.
Yeah. There's one more. So this is one. It's a pretty big deal. So I'll just let it play, and then we'll talk about it.
No, those of us that tried to suggest there may be significant side effects from vaccines, we kind of like with the rest of your show that you had early on, we kind of got canceled because no one wanted to talk about the potential that there was a problem from the vaccines because they were afraid that that would cause people not to want to get vaccinated. The reality is, I was part of Warp Speed. These are important vaccines. We saved a lot of lives. They're important for the most vulnerable people, those over 65 years of age. They really aren't that critical for those that are under 50 or younger. But those vaccines saved a lot of lives, but they're also, we have to be honest, some people got significant side effects from the vaccine. I have a number of people that are quite ill, and they never had COVID, but they are ill from the vaccine, and we just have to acknowledge that. You know, those of us that tried to suggest there may be significant
You know, I'm not sure where the line is here, but I'll just say that we might be drinking a tall glass of "I told you so" in the coming months, and this might just be the start of it when it comes to this issue. So, and also don't forget, like one of the amazing products Ascent Nutrition produces is something called pine needle extract, and it can directly has compounds called shikemic acid, which can directly help with all sorts of respiratory issues, including things to deal with COVID. So I'll just leave it at that. Any thoughts on this one?
Just that News Nation seems to be like the left-leaning version of Newsmax, the mainstream cloaking itself as sub-mainstream. If that makes any sense. So I don't know. It seems like Chris Cuomo at least appears to be on like some kind of redemption arc. It's just hard to know for sure if this guy is serious, if he's just trying to salvage his career, or if there's something more nefarious going on. I know he had Flynn on his show recently. Flynn will talk to anybody who's willing to have him if it allows him to get his message out. So it could be that he's actually a free agent and he's coming around to what's going on. It could also be that, you know, the core group of media people who ran it for so long, who were like the Mockingbird of modern times, are now trying to scramble to figure out what to do to salvage their career now that they've been torpedoed, basically. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. I'm not. I think everything you said there is great. I guess I'll just leave it at that because I know we're short on time. Although I could ramble on about the subject. There were some people asking about call sign Cujo in the chat.
No, I'm trying to find his
I know. I was just gonna say. So this is Elise saying, that's a good comment. And also call sign Cujo. So it's Lulu was kind enough to put in there the tag. I'm trying to find it too, and I can't seem to find it. I don't know why, because I'm subscribed to the channel too. But
I thought it was, unless he changed it.
He might have changed it, although it looks like Armor Your Mind. Yeah, this is the one that I...
Oh, it's not call sign, right? It's got a different...
Yeah, okay. I thought it was call sign, but maybe it's not, so I might be... Okay, this is it. So I'm going to share in the chat, everybody. what the actual channel is, as far as I know. Yeah, the Rapid Response Show.
That
the
is
Rapid
them.
Response
Okay.
Show. Yeah. So
It's
check
him and
that
the
out,
other
everybody.
boys, the dog boys.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple other Cujos too.
Okay. Yeah, I could have sworn there was also something called Call Sign Cujo, but I might be
Yeah,
mistaken on that.
there's like 2 or 3 other buddies that all have similar names, and they all do a show together.
Got it. Okay. Nice. Well, shout out to you guys. All right. Well, let's get into some of
Here,
our
you want
main-
me to? You
Yeah,
want me
go
to
for it.
Let me try this. And bear with me, guys. I'm a noob when it comes to operating StreamYard. All right. Is it actually sharing or not?
No, you got to add it to the stage, which I just did for you. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I lost it. Oh, what have I done? Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the biggest news of the day, at least in a geopolitical sense, was this totally coincidental helicopter crash that killed the Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi. So as per we're going to be using a zero hedge for this. I picked this article just because it's more up to date. I mean, we all know that the guy died. He died in a helicopter crash. So I'll just read a little selection here. Following Tehran's early Monday confirmation of the deaths of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, 63, along with foreign minister and other officials after their helicopter went down over mountainous terrain near the border of Azerbaijan. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has named a new acting president of the Islamic Republic. So, in case you didn't know, the president isn't the end-all, be-all. The Ayatollah, I guess, is higher than he is there. So it's going to be the vice president, Mohammed Mokhbar, I'm probably blowing it, has assumed interim duties in the wake of Raisi's death. Additionally, Iran's nuclear negotiator, Ali Bagheri, has been named acting foreign minister. Interesting. This follows a Sunday statement by Khamenei assuring the public that there would be continuity and stability in the nation's leadership. Iranians have taken to the streets in what is expected to be several days of national mourning. But of course, as we saw, they're not just mourning the death. There's a lot of people out there celebrating it. So when it comes to this story, there's obviously a lot of speculation out there. Before I even knew the details of what happened, the first thing I saw was NBC News assuring us that there's no cause to assume that this was anything but coincidence. So I found out about this last night, probably the same way a lot of you did. I was perusing We the Media, which is an incredible repository of information, by the way. You should definitely follow them if you don't already. And saw Dot Connecting Anons. They posted this quote, as per NBC News. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says intelligence authorities have assured him that there is no evidence of foul play in the helicopter crash.
Oh, very trustworthy.
Yeah, to this statement, I would remind you all that Chuck Schumer and the intelligence boys would obviously never lie to us. They would be very forthcoming with any information that they had. So, I've seen a lot of people out there claiming it was the CIA. Jordan Sather suggests that it was more likely a Mossad hit. I could see it going either way, honestly. But there is one thing, and this is why this one's going to be the feature I spend more time. We're kind of trying to do like a rapid fire thing, but I just want to spend a little more time with this one. So an alternative to Mossad or the CIA is that it could be more of a white hat thing. So remember, the military-industrial complex and the political establishment, they want war. It's a very Donald Trump kind of thing to just eliminate the head of the snake instead of dragging out another endless conflict to suck up billions and billions of dollars. So I meant to plug this at the beginning of the show, but I wrote this Substack, boom, for Badlands Media, our greatest ally. So I wrote this Substack just kind of asking questions about the some of the aspects of this war and the Israeli intelligence's relationship with the United States. I have a second part of this coming out on Friday. So remember, they want endless conflicts. So what I mentioned in this article, and I'll just read it for you here. When it comes to foreign policy, especially war, Donald Trump tends to find ways to outmaneuver Congress and the litany of representatives who are beholden to the military-industrial complex. It's very obvious that there's a lot of these in our Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Trump was not a president who shied away from conflict necessarily. You always hear he started no new wars, which is totally true, but he did end wars. And rather than follow the doctrine of endless war, he tends to just end them as quickly and as possible with as little collateral damage as can be managed. Typically by cutting off the head of the proverbial snake with surgical precision. He did this with Qasem Soleimani and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, and it seems as though he's kind of recommending that Israel do the same when he was interviewed by Haaretz. So Israel's approach has been the complete opposite. Instead of utilizing their highly sophisticated intelligence gathering capabilities, some say they're the best in the planet, to find and eliminate the Hamas leadership, they're raising Gaza using U.S. weaponry, so kind of guilt by association there for us. And it's further radicalizing not only Hamas, but all of Islam, and it's kind of putting Americans abroad in the Middle East at risk. So I wanted to show you a clip. The reason I'm bringing all this up is to support this idea that maybe it wasn't a CIA or a Mossad thing, but maybe this whole thing was meant to kind of avoid a war rather than cause one. It's just it's speculation, because this could still totally be being used to provoke a war. Maybe they always say give it 72 hours, but I'm speculating anyway. So here's a clip. Most people assumed Donald Trump, he's shown great affection for Israel, and his followers often, despite the fact that we've often been called anti-Semites, Trump in other people's minds has done a lot for Israel. But he's been entangled in what could be seen as the most intense lawfare campaign this country's ever seen. He, in that process, has remained pretty silent on Gaza and Israel. So this publication, Israel Hayam, which is the most widely distributed paper in Israel, sent a couple of its top journalists. Actually, it was the editor-in-chief and their foreign affairs correspondent. They sent straight to Mar-a-Lago to kind of get a definitive statement from Trump, who is widely regarded to be the favorite to win 2024. So they want to get the probable future president's take on the war. I think they expected certain answers from him. The publication itself, Israel Hayam, is owned by the family of the late philanthropist and casino mogul and political donor Sheldon Adelson. So he is the Jewish philanthropist who you can criticize, unlike George Soros. So anyway, the thing about Sheldon Adelson is he's a self-proclaimed Jewish social liberal who also happened to be a conservative mega donor. So square that circle. Adelson is often credited with fueling the GOP's pro-Israel shift. So this is a guy, he's dead now, but he was like a George Soros-esque figure on the right, mega donor. And he owns this paper, which is the most widely distributed paper in Israel, Israel Hayam. Anyway, I want to show a clip from when they went to Mar-a-Lago, what Trump said about the war.
Mr. President, thank you for having the time for this interview.
Real quick, is that sound coming through?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Congratulations for clinching the Republican nomination.
Thank you.
Israelis remember the historic decision you took as a president for the Jewish state. Now we are under a war. And our first question is whether you support Israel's goal to completely destroy Hamas.
Okay, so let me just explain why it's so sad. If I were president, you would have never been attacked because Iran was broke. They had no money. China couldn't buy oil from them because otherwise China wouldn't be able to deal with the United States. I said to China, I said to many nations, 47 nations, I spoke to many of them personally. If you buy oil from Iran, you will not do any business in the United States.
So real quick, what he's doing here, if you didn't already catch it, is they're asking him definitively to make a statement about whether or not he supports the war and how it's being played out. And he dodges that like with the grace of a ballerina and starts kind of launching into why it never would have happened and how he stopped it from happening while he was president. So instead of focusing on whether or not he supports the war, he kind of starts going into the steps he took to make it so this war never could have happened. And he's going to then launch into what he thinks about the current initiative. But just pay attention to how he kind of lays this out.
And we're going to tariff your products. Every single one of them agreed. I didn't lose one, not one. And Iran did almost no oil business. You know that. Nobody would buy oil because of me. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for anybody. And now they're sitting with $221 billion in cash, and they control Iraq, which has $300 billion in cash. It's like a subsidiary. Whether you like it or not, it's like a subsidiary because stupidly, the United States went in and blew everything up. You know, you had two countries that were sort of equal in power, and one of them got blown up by the United States. And now Iran has a big advantage in the Middle East over a lot of other countries. When I saw October 7th, it was one of the saddest things I've ever seen because there was no reason for it. They would have never, ever done that for two reasons. Number one, they were broke. And number two, I was the president. They would have never done that because they knew there would have been very big consequences. All right. That being said, you have to finish up your war. You have to finish it up. You got to get it done. And I'm sure you'll do that. And we got to get to peace. You can't have this going on. And I will say Israel has to be very careful because you're losing a lot of the world. You're losing a lot of support. But you have to finish up. You have to get the job done. And you have to get on to peace. You have to get on to a normal life for Israel and for everybody else.
So if you re-elect in a few months, once again to vice president, and Israel still may be in a war, how would you help Israel?
So basically, you know, he said, yeah, you're at war, but you got to wrap it up. You got to end it. We can't be seeing what we're seeing every night on the news or across the internet, you know, with children being pulled out of wreckage, Israeli teenagers blocking the aid workers from coming in, saying they all need to die, you know, stuff like that. So which is good because Trump's got a kind of a PR mind despite everything that's happened to him. Yeah. And he's still saying, you know, Israel has the right to defend itself, but you got to end it. You got to end it. You don't need to drag it out forever so that the whole world watches appalled, you know, which is kind of what seems to be happening now. There's all kinds of funny business going on with the optics regarding this war. You know, there's a lot of exaggerations on both sides. But yeah, so again, it's the deep state who wants conflict. They want it to drag on endlessly. And it is typically the Trump faction that ends them, usually by just surgically eliminating the most important players. So that's what I'm saying. Was this done to provoke a war, which may well could have been by Mossad or the CIA? Or, I mean, you really have to know the background intelligence on what's going on, and I don't, admittedly. Right. But it could also be that this guy was removed to prevent war. And the only thing we can do is just kind of watch and see what happens. Any comments on all this?
Well, kind of like you, I'm not familiar with all the various players to have like a too precise of a comment, but you certainly know more than me. But, you know, having educated myself more and more on the degree to which the intelligence agencies and the community has been at work in our world, I mean, it's kind of really shocking, like how much of our reality, whether it's mainstream media, geopolitically, you know, the food we eat, the clothes we buy, like so many things are influenced by the intelligence apparatus. And I would not be surprised at all if there's some kind of intelligence agency battle has been taking place. Arguably, the whole Trump thing is itself a kind of throwing down the gauntlet. When Trump walked down the escalator, it was kind of like one faction seemingly waging war against another with respect to the intelligence apparatus. And then the underbelly occultists and mafioso types that gave birth to the intelligence apparatus, which we've talked about many times on the show through Whitney Webb's book, A Nation Under Blackmail. And recently, somebody I've been digesting a lot of his content, although he's got a voluminous amount, Matt Arrett, has also talked quite extensively about that, mentions the Invisible College quite a bit. So I'm inclined to think that this situation in Iran might have in some way been some type of intelligence agency event. I just don't know what. So very interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess time will tell. They always say wait 72 hours, but since the show is happening right now, we had to talk about it.
That's right.
So I'm sure it'll be something that we bring up again in the future. Are we going to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Poso for Hope. Poso for Hope contributes a Rumble rant here. He came after us hard time, and his brother killed many in NJ. I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, but we appreciate the support nonetheless. So
yeah,
thanks.
let us know. Let us know in the chat who you were talking about specifically. I think he was talking about Racy, but I don't know for sure.
Got it. Okay. All right, cool. All right, well then, what else you got for us?
So here's this. I'll start it by just showing you this tweet. Is that on the screen?
No, I'll help you out. There you go.
So who's been APAC's biggest donor since October 7th? It would be Leonid Radvinsky, the Jewish Zionist owner of OnlyFans. He pledged $11 million to the pro-Israel lobby. His donation was over 5 times bigger than the second largest donation to APAC post October 7th. So at first I was like, that cannot be true. You know, you got all these fundamentalist Christians, and there's a contingent of Orthodox Jews too who are in support of everything going on. So I was like, that can't be real. So I looked it up, and lo and behold, here we have OnlyFans owner pledged $11 million to Israel lobby. And so the biggest donor is, there's been a lot of, obviously you can just, the mind can imagine a lot of the more anti-Semitic comments that came out of this revelation. It's not new news by any stretch. This came out in February, but complete crickets from, Breitbart, Just the News, all of these other organizations that, they act a certain way, but then that it's very tribal, I guess. So,
wow.
If you're a real news organization, unless you're just doing the punditry shtick where you only boost up your side of, your team, and you just look for ways to crap on the other side, you just ignore the inconvenient truths that don't kind of fit your narrative. And that's not something we do at Vigilant News. So,
right.
So anyway, I just wanted to show this. Did you have any comments on it?
Nothing directly about this, but I find it very interesting. Like, if you ask yourself, who are some of the people that are instrumental in what we might say, so there's psychological operations, psyops, then you've got biowarfare. I would group all sorts of things in biowarfare, like the pharmaceutical industry and the food we eat is in biowarfare. Totally. And then we have these other things, we might call it like family warfare or community warfare or psychology warfare. And I think the OnlyFans is a part of it. And that part of that lumps in there is the porn, the whole porn thing, and like all the sexualization of children and people. And it's just, there's so many layers to this. And it's very interesting, the people who fund these kind of things. We'll just put it that way. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah. And a lot of what I've been learning about, Unit 8200, which is a part of the Israeli Defense Force. It's the biggest part of the Israeli Defense Force, and it deals in cybersecurity and stuff like that. A lot of the people, most of the personnel in Unit 8200 are between the ages of 18 and 21. Like most of the personnel. The reason for this is that they have it's easy for them to adapt to new technology. They're in that age where they're learning it. Something new can come along and you can just pick it up pretty easily. So they always have a constant rotating pool of people from that age group. And then when they get to their early 20s, they then leave. And what do? They often either go to become part of a big tech firm or to start their own. So most of the big tech firms, even just like the little things like small apps, like are created by this unit 8200.
Wow. Okay.
So they flood the industry with these people that they train from 18 to 21. And then a lot of times, they're supposed to keep it under wraps, but a lot of times tech companies will be waiting to see who's graduating each year. They have corporate intelligence, so they can figure it out. There's actually probably a lot of liaising that happens between Unit 8200 and the tech firms. So they know who to scoop up right when they're coming out of it. But I brought that up because it turns out that Waze is one of these things, the app Waze, the Wix, the website builder is one of these things. It's all being utilized by Israeli intelligence to build out the surveillance state. Israeli intelligence is on par with the NSA when it comes to their access to the surveillance system that has completely blanketed this earth.
Right.
But they do it with much less people. And they've got their people in every little nook and cranny of the tech world. So I thought it was worth bringing that up since, this guy's a Zionist. He owns OnlyFans. I'm sure that there is some kind of connection between this and Unit 8200. And for anybody else who's more familiar with the Ghislaine Maxwell and the Maxwell families, mostly the Maxwell sisters' role in creating backdoors for all these cybersecurity organizations to be infiltrated by the Israeli government. There was a software called Pegasus, who I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with, and it was pretty controversial when it came out. And it was Ghislaine Maxwell's sister who helped create that. Well, the company that created Pegasus, I'm trying to remember the name. The name was, I have it right here, NSO Group. It created the Pegasus software. Well, that was Ghislaine Maxwell's sister. So there's another bit of supporting evidence that the Maxwells were working with Israeli intelligence to do all of this. Like, there's so much going on here. There's so much to speculate about. Of course, there's not a lot of overt stuff, but there's a lot out there that's pointing in a certain direction. I just wanted to bring that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, there's so much to dig into there. We're not going to have time to do much of it, but yeah, very interesting thing. It's strange. I remember hearing back in the day that, Mossad was involved in this and that. And I'm like, why is Israeli intelligence involved in so many of these different aspects? But now I'm a lot more clued in on why that's a big thing. So, and why they might be saving Israel for last, if you know what I mean. So,
right.
All right. Well, what else we got here?
We got is this the one I think is? Are we on to WikiLeaks?
Yeah, I think that's the next one up.
Filing through here. All right. So WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange granted right to appeal extradition to the United States. So this is the latest in a series of victories that by no means suggests that Assange is out of the woods yet, but it's reassuring. So we've asked the audience several times what y'all think the reason is that Trump hasn't pardoned Assange. And it seems that there are at least two prevailing schools of thought. So the most common one is people say, well, Mike Pompeo, he had it out for Julian Assange. He was in Trump's ear. He got him to not, pardon him. That's one angle. Mm-hmm. Another one is that he didn't pardon Assange because there's no actual crime that was committed. And that somehow over the course of this Assange narrative, the saga of Julian Assange, that will be exposed and part of what happens when he is finally released, hopefully. I know that Justin talks about the idea that he was never actually convicted of a crime. So you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, real quick, for those of you who haven't subscribed to our Telegram channels, we're going to be doing a lot through the Telegram channels. You can also go to vigilant.news where you can see the show notes for today and everything we talk about, the book of the month, all that great stuff. So I just put it in the chat for everybody, and you can go into the description on either YouTube or Rumble to see the show notes for today. And don't forget to subscribe or give us your email to the newsletter app so we can send you a newsletter when we post something on the website. So So yeah, just real quick on the whole Assange thing. I mean, I remember I was trying to figure out like, well, why didn't Trump pardon Assange? You know, you'd think like out of anybody who's earned a pardon, he did, and then he was pardoning. I mean, I don't have him offhand, but I know he pardoned a few people that, you know, for as far as I remember, were way more overtly engaging in criminal activity than Assange. I mean, Assange didn't even commit a crime other than opening his mouth and talking about the intelligence apparatus in a way that he shouldn't have. So it leads me to believe that there's a benefit to Assange, as awful as this sounds, being in jail. You know, it's funny. I just started watching the X-Men, the '97 series. I watched the new one, the reboot, and then I started watching with my wife the OG '97 X-Men, which I grew up watching. And we're on the episode one of the episodes just was dealing with Magneto and how Beast was put in jail, and Beast is like, you know, it's more important for me to be on trial and to give attention to these key issues than it is for me to get broken out right now, because Magneto is trying to break him out of jail. And I'm like, man, that sounds very similar to what's going on with Julian Assange right now.
Yeah, and it could also end up happening with Trump.
Exactly. So,
so basically, Julian Assange is a big X-Men fan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it. He is Magneto. If you didn't know that. And also, guys, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, comment on this video, let us know what you think, show us some love. We really appreciate it. We got 168 people watching live right now. So we really appreciate everybody who managed to come over to our not so loved and cared for channel that we've been running parallel to this, the one we used to be on, Badlands. So in any case, go ahead.
Yeah, help us spread the word if you guys can. We need all the help we can get, because we do, you know, the show is just one of the many things that we have to do on a daily basis.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all these other jobs. So it's not like we have a huge marketing team or social media team. It's literally just been us and Allie for a while now. So if you guys can help, that might help us out a lot.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, cool.
So next, this will be the last one I really talk about.
Okay.
If I can find it here, let me know if this pops up. It's U.S. blast outrageous ICC pending arrest warrants targeting Israel leaders. So it's not just the leaders of Israel; it's also the Hamas leadership. So I'll just start reading it here. The same Western officials who cheered on the Hague-based ICC, it's the International Criminal Court, when it issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin, are now aghast that it would do the same for U.S. ally Benjamin Netanyahu. The Biden administration has condemned the pending formal arrest warrant applications, which also targets Israel's defense minister, as outrageous. So below is the full statement. This is Blinken on ICC warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. The United States fundamentally rejects the announcement today from the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court that he is applying for arrest warrants for senior Israeli officials together with warrants for Hamas. And there's this whole drawn-out letter here from Blinken that you're more than welcome to read, should you want. So they said in the article, perhaps for the sake of a show of balance, the International Criminal Court prosecutor is also seeking arrest warrants for Hamas, top political and military leadership. However, that Israel is being targeted is history-setting development, which, you know, that's exactly true. Israel is never targeted. Israel is never held to account for any of the things they do. They've had a free pass to do whatever they want for the better part of the last 100 years. Mm-hmm. So that's why it is kind of interesting that this is happening. The article goes on and on. Here we have a statement from that prosecutor, Karim Khan. So you can get a kind of a taste for where this guy's coming from. Of course, this is all the United Nations. So who knows what's going on here?
I can also confirm today that I have reasonable grounds to believe, on the basis of evidence collected and examined by my office, that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant bear criminal responsibility for the following international crimes committed on the territory of the State of Palestine from at least the 8th of October 2023. The crimes include starvation of civilians as a method of warfare, willfully causing great suffering, serious injury to body or health or cruel treatment, willful killing or murder, and intentionally directing attacks against a civilian population, as well as crimes against humanity of extermination and or murder, persecution, and allegations of crimes of committing other inhuman acts. It's alleged that these crimes were committed in the context of the ongoing armed conflict and as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Gaza, pursuant to a state policy.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that. I just want to remind everyone that if you're trying to look at this situation through the lens of one side is good and the other side is bad, we just need to figure out what side to cheer for, then you're not really seeing the bigger picture, in my opinion. Usually when the international establishment is going to do something, they're usually in lockstep. I think that everything that's happening here shows that no one's in lockstep anymore, that this conflict is much more nuanced and confusing than most things. You know, I think the end goal here when it comes to the international community, quote unquote, and the ruling class, of course, it's not like their goal is to liberate the people of Gaza. It's not like somehow they suddenly care about us or just like the little people, and now they want to save the Gazans. And it's not just that they want Israel to get a new plot of land either. I think that either those goals, which seem like the obvious goals, like either we free Palestine or Israel gets a new chunk of real estate, it's like that is what it seems like this is all about, but it's not about that really. I think I believe what's going to happen is that this event, this war, the conflict, this greater conflict, because it's not just Gaza and Israel anymore. There's Yemen, Lebanon, Iran. There's a lot more going on here. And I think what's meant to happen is this whole thing is supposed to spiral out of control. It's supposed to become the big final war, a war so terrible that the people of the world will kind of start to warm up to the idea of the elimination of national sovereignty and borders, and the cause. It could be a cause for the religions of the past to now be associated with war and terror and all the gruesome stuff that we are seeing and will probably continue to see. And the Vatican's been talking about aliens again, and so it's like, at what point are they going to try to say, here's a new religion of reason? Look at what's happening with the Jews in Islam. They're destroying each other. It's terrible. We need a new religion of reason. Adam Weishaupt's religion of reason, what the Invisible College has been pushing for centuries and centuries. That's what I think this could be, regardless of if that letter, the famed letter from Albert Pike to Giuseppe Mazzini, is true, which I think that I haven't been thoroughly convinced that it's a forgery. Mm-hmm. But I think that's what this is. I think that this is there's bigger things at play here than whether or not the Gazans will be freed or whether or not Israel will get new land. I think that's the pretext for something that is meant to be much, much more than this. And when you see George Soros funding the pro-Palestinian protests, it's not doing it because George Soros is up late at night thinking about those Palestinian children. I mean, this is a guy who self-admittedly turned in other Jews to the Nazis when he was a kid. So
with no regrets.
With no regrets. And he openly talks about it like, yeah, I'd do it again. So I think what he's doing is he knows that there's a block of people, a big block of people who are seeing what's happening in Israel, and that's another block that he can control. And I don't think that a lot of the stuff we see that a lot of people are talking about, even Glenn Greenwald, he's thinking about it in the sense that this is just one isolated conflict and there's two different sides and one's got to be right. It's not like that at all. Like, I think this is going to be an atrocity exhibition, and it's going to, it's meant to kind of like push people in a certain direction, psychological manipulation.
I mean, if anyone's familiar with World War I, we'd like to think, especially in the past century with all the activity that we've seen, that wars are just a natural part of being human, that people get really pissed off at each other and they just want to kill each other, and that's just the way it is. But if that was true, then why is it that in almost every single conflict, most especially in the 20th century and the 21st century, the one we find ourselves in right now, you have the heavy hand of the intelligence apparatus through the media trying to fan the flames of conflict? And one of the best examples of this is during World War I. The Americans did not want to join World War I. Woodrow Wilson was elected under the mandates to not join the war as much as possible, and you had a pre-CIA intelligence apparatus, the Wellington House in the UK, fanning all the flames of war, trying to get the U.S. into the war. There's been recently, not recently, but they've disclosed documents, declassified things of this sort that have come out that absolutely show that these guys were, as a matter of their standard business practice, trying to generate media and otherwise fan the flames of war so that we would join the war. And that has not stopped. The CIA has been involved in this, various other intelligence apparatuses. The media is complicit. They just work hand in glove. Of course, we got people like Victoria Nuland and John McCain and, all the other warmongers. Anytime you hear bipartisan support uttered through the lips of the media, you got to think to yourself, oh boy, what kind of new war racketeering are we going to hear coming out of a media in Congress today? So, what's I think is actually inspiring about that is, well, two things. One, it shows that in order for people to want to kill each other on the scale that we have seen in the 20th century, you actually need a lot of energy and time and effort put into it, because generally speaking, people don't want to fight each other. Now there's a little bickering here and there that happens for sure, especially in our modern age, because there's so much of our media is itself a psychological warfare operation, designed to make people not know how to work with each other, designed to make people not know how to communicate with each other, and to fan the flames of ego and things like this. But yeah, so the good news is behind that is that at our core, I think we're all fundamentally good people that just want to live in a peaceful world, want to have our access to our families, a higher quality of life, which doesn't necessarily mean we need to all live like George Soros and big lavish palaces or anything like that. I mean, for me, and this is something I think Ryan shares as well, a lot of people listening, like, I just want to live in community with my fellow patriots where we help each other. You need a garden put in, I come and hang out at your house. We have some drinks. I help you mow your lawn, whatever it is. You do the same for me. And man, that life sounds amazing. Like, let's get back to that. And I think what we'll discover, and I think Trump knows this too, that as we start to break down these entrenched parasitic intelligence apparatuses, we're going to find the world's a hell of a lot more peaceful than we initially thought.
Yeah, I agree. You reminded me of a couple of things. Like, when it comes to war, the worst, most terrible thing we've seen in the history of war was World War II, probably. I mean, there was obviously a lot of horrible things going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, but on the scale that we saw it with World War II, there hasn't really been anything like that. There's like isolated battles throughout history, like in feudal Japan, we saw a lot of killing and slaughter and back and forth between China and Korea and Japan. There was a lot of stuff like that. But what I think this could all devolve into, I'm not trying to fearmonger or anything like that.
Sure.
But for the most part, besides the people who actually went and served in Iraq and Afghanistan, we are a generation of people who do not really know war in America. Mm-hmm. Like, we haven't seen it. We haven't felt it. I mean, not all of us, obviously. The people who served have, and it's obviously scarring. But, I think the deep state plan for a potential World War III scenario, whether it's still coming or not, a lot of people say, patriots are in control, etc. Maybe that's true. But prior to all of that, that was the goal. That was the way things were going, was this super final war to usher in a world government. And it's going to be so much more harrowing now for people because we're so used to just having to play video games and like go to our job and like be completely numb to all of these things. So now we have this potential for a huge series of atrocities that we'll have to witness and see. And I think that their plan was to use this as a, just like Albert Pike says in the letter, this is what's going to usher in the New World religion, and it's going to usher in the New World government. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be successful. I think it's like too far off the rails now, but that's where my mind's always at when I read about these things.
Yeah, 100%. So, okay, so before I get to my articles, and we'll try to do this as quick as possible, because I know you got to bounce here in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, while I do this, you check up on that. So okay. I saw Sarsaparilla 77. And by the way, guys, thanks for joining us. Definitely like and subscribe. We're going to be doing the show on the Vigilant News Rumble channel from now on. If you're on YouTube, you can follow us on the Stillness in the Storm YouTube channel. So we're going to try to broadcast to both places. But I wanted to address this question for those who didn't hear this answer beforehand. The question was, why the breakaway from Badlands? Well, first of all, we wish Badlands the best of luck. There's a lot of amazing people over there doing a lot of great work. And Ryan and I feel that the more decisive issue here is the battle for freedom in the Infowar. And that's kind of where all our energy is focused. We had some disagreement and we'll say things didn't turn out the way we had hoped when it came to our relationship with Badlands, but bygones be bygones. We are no longer with them anymore. We're going to do our own thing. And go ahead.
Sorry. To be fair, I'm still writing for Badlands. It's there's like I guess go ahead.
Yeah. So there was some differences of opinion between myself and John, and ultimately that led us to no longer want to work together. Unfortunately, Ryan kind of got caught in the crossfire with that because he and I have a show on there. So, so there's some issues there that we probably won't put publicly, but if anything comes to light and we need to respond, we'll probably respond to it. But, with all due respect to everybody there, we wish them all the best. And we think we're going to be able to do some amazing things as their individual platform with Vigilant News. We got some big events planned here. We want to create more community, more engagement, more audience participation with the Infowar, and we think we can really do that in a way that's unique and beneficial and a value add to what we were doing previously. So anything you'd like to comment on that?
No, yeah, that sounds all good to me.
Okay. All right, so let me... let's see. If you haven't already done so, go to vigilant.news and make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. Also, make sure you like and subscribe on the video. I think I mentioned that. And then I wanted to cover a few stories here, so I'll try to do these somewhat quickly because I know we're short on time. So we have this story here. Where is it? There we go. FDA says it's preparing for a bird flu pandemic in people that could kill 1 in 4 Americans. Go ahead.
That's terrifying.
I know.
I'm terrified. I'm scared.
So terrified. Yeah, exactly. I'm horrified. Well, I mean, anybody who's got any sense can see the writing on the wall when it comes to the previous pandemic. And the single largest upward transfer of wealth in human history took place around that. There was a lot of interesting prophetic statements made by some very powerful people, we'll put it that way, in an Event 201 scenario. And we've seen similar Event 201s, meaning, movers and shakers of the world gathering together to talk about what the potential of another pandemic could look like. And if I remember correctly, I think a swine flu / bird flu was floated as a potential virus here. So this is something that they're really trying to push hard right now. If anybody was looking at social media, you probably saw a lot of the stuff. We got Robert Califf said the FDA was drawing up plans for a major outbreak, which just reading that, you're kind of like, what? The FDA is drawing up plans for a major outbreak? Like, what do they mean by that exactly? What's going on here? But he restated that this was a precaution with officials believing risk was low. Well, that's good. So basically, one of the things I wanted to mention here is that there are ways of dealing with these issues that do not require potentially risking your life with experimental pharmaceuticals. And one of those things, and this is kind of a transition into our sponsor for today, is Ascent Nutrition's pine needle extract. Pine needle extract has been known to do all sorts of beneficial things. It supports, let me see if I can pull it up here. There it is. Yeah, it promotes healthy respiratory function. The shikamic acid in pine needle extract it's called it's the active ingredient in Thermoflu. I can't remember the name of it.
Is it Theraflu?
Theraflu, maybe. Tumeraflu.
I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot too. But in any case, so this stuff is really amazing. If you look up shikamic acid, there has been peer-reviewed studies on the benefits it has with gut repair, the benefit it has with lung repair of an anti-blood clot. So basically, it helps break down blood clots. And people were actively taking this stuff to deal with one of the touted solutions to the COVID virus from the last time around. But you can get yourself some Ascent Nutrition pine needle extract. You can go link in the description. We got a special discount of 10%. So you just got to use the link in the description. You can even share that with your friends if you like for another discount. And I would strongly suggest taking this. And by the way, as far as price point, I looked up recently because I work for Ascent. I'm like, what is the price disparity? Like if I wanted to grab my own, different pine needle extract, what would it cost? Well, first of all, the quality is not necessarily guaranteed. There was a lot of people saying that there was, you can buy pine needles, but is it really the good stuff you need? Not necessarily. And the other thing is that the other versions can often be quite pricey and have a lot of contaminants in it, apparently. But one of the cool things about Ascent Nutrition is they post their certificates of analysis. So you can actually see exactly what's in the chemical analysis and know for sure that it's some of the purest out there, which it is. So definitely get yourself some pine needle extract from our wonderful sponsor, Ascent Nutrition. And you can help prepare yourself for whatever the world has to throw at you, we'll put it that way. Any comments on the bird flu thing?
Just that it's real interesting that it's happening right now as, the World Health Assembly just happened. They're pushing through the international health regulations, the amendments to them that they have been proposing for a couple of years now. And then there's this amorphous pandemic treaty that they're like rushing to get ratified. So I don't think that's all a coincidence, but at the same time, it's like, the last time we had a big global pandemic was in the middle of an election where Donald Trump was projected to win. What are the chances the next time a big pandemic comes is during another election where Trump is projected to win? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's so obvious. Like, how could they really get away with that? But people are pretty dumb. So, I guess they could get away with it.
Exactly. Yeah. Again, all you gotta do is exercise a little bit of critical thinking, something we've talked about before called multidimensional, multivariant thinking. Just ask yourself, what is the possibility? Start to connect some dots and you'd be surprised what you can figure out on your own. So, and I'm glad Crystal Clear 17 is taking her pine needle extract. I've been taking it for a while, and it's pretty remarkable how effective it is in dealing with these things. Like, in all seriousness, guys, this stuff is really amazing. Definitely check it out. All right, so let's move on to our next story here. We got, let's see, I'm having an issue with this page here. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can get it to load properly. Well, it isn't. Come on, one more time. All right, well, let's see if I can put the shields down. Maybe that'll help.
Oh, what's the problem? Sorry, I wasn't.
No, you're good. The site that I'm trying to get to load here is just like struggling hardcore. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm not so sure why. I'll just tell you about what the story's about. So Jack Smith, the judge for the Jack Smith case, is concerned. And the reason being is that good old Jack isn't necessarily the most above-board guy we thought he was. Federal judge overseeing one of the criminal cases against former President Trump on May 19th expressed concern and disappointment with special counsel Jack Smith. She's not the only one. U.S. District Judge Aline Cannon, an appointee of President Trump, said that Mr. Smith and his team have taken inconsistent positions during the case as it pertains to keep some information sealed and hidden from the public. Yeah, keep in mind, guys, that Jack Smith literally admitted that they tampered with evidence. I mean, you could not ask for a more poignant example of lawfare and manipulation of public opinion to try to convict an innocent man than to talk about the document case with Donald Trump. But it was a pretty glaring one. This is what Aline had to say. Judge Aline, in two separate filings related to sealing, special counsel stated without qualification that he had no objection to full unsealing of previously sealed docket entries related to allegations of prosecutorial misconduct. In light of that repeated representation, and in the absence of any defense objection, the court unsealed those materials consistent with the general presumption in favor of public access, the judge said. So what does that mean, basically? Well, basically it means that they unsealed the documents, and as far as I could tell, there was no complaint on the side of the prosecution, meaning they didn't put up a fight. The materials that were unsealed, though, contain information such as grand jury details that the special counsel has and continues to say in all other filings should be kept sealed. Judge Cannon has asked for an explanation of its inconsistency. In response to those inquiries, counsel explained that the special counsel took the position on unsealing in order to publicly and transparently refute defense allegations of prosecutorial misconducts raised in pretrial negotiations. So there's the defense, and rightly so, I think, is arguing that there's prosecutorial misconduct, that they're not playing fair on the other side with the prosecution. Fair enough, but nowhere in that explanation is there any basis to conclude that the special counsel could not have defended the integrity of his office while simultaneously preserving the witness safety and the Rule 6E concerns he has repeatedly told the court. So in other words, you can't just seal anything just because you want to seal something and keep it hidden from the public. You have to actually have a good reason. And I believe the stated reason in this situation by the prosecution, Jack Smith, was that, he has to preserve the witness safety. And then Judge Cannon also described herself as being disappointed in these developments. The sealing and redaction rules should be applied consistently and fairly upon sufficient factual and legal showing. And parties should not make requests that undermine any prior representations or positions except upon full disclosure to the court and appropriate briefing. So there's a lot of legal stuff to worry through, and I don't have a lot of time to go into all the nitty-gritty details here, but what it's basically showing is inconsistency. Now you can't claim, that by releasing this information, bad things are going to happen, and then later down the line, do things or say things that seem to undermine that thing you said. That is misrepresentation. That is not in keeping in concert or consistent with the representations of the statements you made before, and that seems like that's what's happening here, which, considering it's a political witch hunt, no surprise. Comments?
I think that maybe Jack Smith is in the right, and it's going to be a big plot twist at the end, and that Donald Trump is really the supervillain that they always told us he was.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No, I'm bad when it comes to the law stuff. So I leave that ball in your court.
Awesome. Yeah. I think, me personally, and we've talked about this before on the show, and a lot of people have, even Trump himself has said it, that this is not a trial against Trump. This is a trial against the justice system itself and the legal system. Because what's really at stake here is the integrity of our justice system and the legal system. And what is being revealed to all of us is just how bad and how corrupt the system is. And it is not a new development. It's not like it's been flawless ever since. And then when Trump got the trials pushed against him, that all this corrupt stuff started happening. No, this corrupt shenanigans has been going on for a very long time. It's something I've been researching passionately for a while now. And that's why I'm constantly talking about the maxims of positive law and other things that are produced by Ucadia. Because if you don't know how the rules are supposed to be when it comes to the rule of law, then you don't know that you're living in a corrupt society. But Trump is playing his part to help reveal just how corrupt society is. And I think it's going to become a lot more obvious here as things proceed.
Amen.
So for our last story for today, we've got, this is a crazy one, so I'm just going to introduce it and then I'll let you riff on it because I think you know more about this than I do. But Iran police arrest some 260 people at a Satanist gathering. There was a statement in here that kind of like just sums up what we know, which is not much. There might have been on the other article I was looking at. Okay, so nationalities of, or I'll just start here. Police arrested 146 men and 115 women who were, quote, in an undesirable and obscene state with emblems, signs, and symbols of Satanism on their clothes, head, face, and hair, the statement read. The nationalities of the Europeans involved were not immediately known, so apparently it involved some Europeans. Alcohol, psychoactive substances, and 73 vehicles were also seized in the overnight raid on a Satanist network, police told Iran's Fars news agency. A 25-second video posted by the agency showed a scene from the gathering resembling a techno event, so it kind of looks like a techno event. So any thoughts on this one before I share anything?
Basically, something that they do in Iran is that if you attend like a metal show and you have like a t-shirt that looks vaguely satanic and you're drinking alcohol, that might get you labeled as a Satanist. So it's hard to know whether or not this is like a legitimate, like there were 230 Satanists drinking blood and sacrificing children, or if it was like 200 Iranians who enjoy like black metal at a show drinking beer. We don't know, because it could be that that's the cover, because they always gotta have a cover for the satanic stuff. Mm-hmm. But it could also be that in Iran, a very religiously charged nation, that they're more militant about stamping stuff like that out, even if it's not that overt. It's just like, it's hard to tell from the from what we know so far about this, which is which.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point, because I haven't seen anything. I'm not sure exactly what happens, and you have to be honest that media can certainly paint one picture and it turns out to be something completely different. Look at the Very Fine People story from 2017, Trump. So yeah, I was more so going to comment on, and I agree with everything you said. I was going to comment on the fact that we do have good reason to believe that what we might call Satanists or dark occultists or Luciferians do indeed seem to be around on this planet. A lot of people have talked about it. We've talked about it. Yeah, exactly. That there's a cult that's been around for a long time. They've kind of used different covers to operate, and the one that is probably the one I'm most familiar with anyway, I'll put it that way, is the Sabbatean religious movement that took place in 1666 with somebody named Nathan of Gaza, who was kind of like the public spokesman for a man named Shabbatai Tzvi. And Shabbatai Tzvi he claimed to be basically the Messiah. And then Nathan of Gaza kind of took that story and ran with it big time. And for what I can tell, based on the very little information we have about so we don't have like direct testimony from Shabbatai Tzvi that I know of, but we have a lot of like stories about him. And he was, according to many Jewish historians, one of them is named Dr. Justin Sledge, who's got a YouTube channel called Esoterica. He's got like a whole series on this. And he said it was one of the most, and it is regarded as the most successful Jewish reformation in history. And about something like 2/3 of the Jews at the time converted to the Sabbatean Jews. And what their motto was, since we can't all be saints, let us be sinners. And that was based on the idea that, well, in their version of the cosmology, so the religious belief system, they believe that the Messiah comes either in times of great sin or great virtue. And since it's really hard for everybody to become virtuous, well, let's just do the opposite. Let's just spread as much sin as humanly possible. And they were involved in wife swapping, just engaging in all sorts of sin, sex orgies, all sorts of these kind of things. And that when they were busted, so to speak, when they tried to invade and take over Israel. The Sultan at the time basically went to Shabbatai Tzvi and said, hey, listen, you either convert to Islam or I'm going to kill you. And he converted to Islam. And then Nathan of Gaza, dealing with the PR nightmare that was a result of that, because like, why is the Messiah converting if he's really the Messiah?
Yeah.
Well, he spun it as, well, that's what we good Sabbatean Jews have to do, is we have to carry on the mission from behind closed doors as crypto Jews, and crypto meaning we're gonna convert to Catholicism, convert to Islam, convert to atheism, convert to secularism, but behind the scenes, we're going to still practice our Sabbatean faith. So, yeah, any comments on any of that?
Yeah, that's just like one iteration of this thing that continues to pop up throughout the ages. And, you know, it goes all the way back to, I mean, pre-Moses. You know, some people say it goes all the way back to Adam, but one of the major core repeating elements of this thing that at a certain point in time became labeled as satanic, but for many years was called other things. Mm-hmm. The key thing that connects it all through all of these different groups, and they're not all like Jewish, and they're not all, you know, Western. It's that the thing that connects them is the magical system that is called the Kabbalah. And there's this amazing book, which I think should be the book of the month, even though I think we already picked a book of the month earlier in the month, didn't we?
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, that's kind of the last thing we'll do. So, but go ahead, you finish.
So I have a different book of the month, and it's called Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nesta Webster. And in it, you know, she goes over all of these different groups, like going back to the Egyptians, you know, going into modern Freemasonry, talking about Rosicrucians, the Templars, the Sabbateans, the Frankists, the Druids, all of these different groups that were practicing different esoteric kind of things. The theme that runs through all of them is Kabbalah. And it's not just like the Jewish, the Zohar, the Sefer Yetzirah. There's elements of it that are totally not Jewish, like Pythagoras added to the tradition, and Egyptians added to the tradition. So it's not actually, to call it a wholly Jewish thing is completely inaccurate, actually. At least the version of the Kabbalah that is practiced by Rosicrucians and Freemasons. But that book really kind of charts it going through the ages, like all of these different things, whether it was like the Essenes or the old Gnostics from the time of Jesus and before. It's a very fascinating book, but that is the theme. And it seems like it, you know, there's people out there who are always like, Kabbalah is just evil all the time, no matter what. And then there are other people who say that it polarizes negatively and it polarizes positively. I don't know. I'm just learning about it. But that seems to be one of the things that is like a current thing that runs through all of these different groups.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Look at this, buddy. You got a new friend here today.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah. Normally, Ryan's in another part of the country. Normally we're together in the same studio, but he's up being a good son up there, visiting his mama. So, yeah. So hopefully she's doing well. And so finally, or finishing up the show here, let me go ahead and get a thank you over to, there it is, F17QG. Thank you so much for the support. He says, or she says, don't let me misgender you now. Thanks for all you do, boys. We'll continue to support you. You have always proven yourself to be perfect gentlemen, which earned my respect. Well, I really appreciate that. Seriously.
Yeah. Thank you.
We definitely appreciate it. And yeah, so I guess we should probably do the book of the month, and then we'll close out, I guess. So here's good.
Real quick, Elise asked, what is it called? And author got my pen now. It's called Secret Societies and Subversive Movements by Nesta Webster. And it was either written in 1919 or the early 20s. And so you're looking at it from a perspective of 100 years ago. which is remarkable because interestingly enough, they actually had more accurate information then than they do now because they've had 100 years to kind of rewrite history and insert all of these other, I guess, explanations for who was right and who was wrong. And, they always say history is written by the victor. So, it was definitely a different time period back then. So if you get a chance, pick that book up. It's fascinating. I was reading the book that is our book of the month, and I got like more than halfway through it, and I started reading this other one, and now I'm hooked on the other one. So
nice. That's awesome. Well, real quick, we also just got a new supporter on our lovely channel here, PJ. Really appreciate it, PJ. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We appreciate all you guys. We really do care about you guys, and we really wanted to serve our audience here, and it's heartwarming to know that we have your support. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's cover the book of the month. So the book of the month, you were talking about it a little bit. It's the 13th Tribe.
Yeah, I have it here. It's upstairs. I didn't bring it down with me, but the 13th Tribe, some of you guys in this community are probably familiar with the Khazarians or the Khazarian Mafia or ancient Khazaria. If you've ever seen that movie Fall Cabal or whatever it's called, they definitely mention it a little bit in that film, although their depiction of Khazaria is not exactly accurate based on what I'm learning from all of these other sources. But that doesn't mean that it's inaccurate. I'm just saying that's a lot of things that are contested about what happened. But in a nutshell, what the book proposes is that the Jewish diaspora is composed largely of ancient Khazarians who have no Semitic DNA at all. And there have actually been tests in Israel in recent years that kind of support this idea that most of the people in Israel have no Semitic DNA and that they're actually from Khazaria, which would be partly modern day Ukraine. Interestingly enough, all of this stuff seems weirdly connected. So that's what this book is all about. It goes through the history of Khazaria. It goes through how and when the entire nation went from being this pagan, Moloch worshiping nation to being a Jewish people all of a sudden, overnight, basically. And what happened when Khazaria fell and the numbers of Jews in Western or Eastern Europe just skyrocketed. So basically the beginning of what they call Western Jewry, which would be the elements of the diaspora that went into Poland and Germany and Italy and all these other countries and France. They're all just immigrants from ancient Khazaria blending in with different nations. So that's what this book's all about. It's super interesting.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this one. I wish I had like an extra 48 hours a week to work with because, man, I'd be reading so much you'd never see my face out of a book. So much to look at. But yeah, awesome. So the link in the description, everybody. Go to the show notes, vigilant.news. You can find the link in the description. You can find all the notes that we covered today, as well as the links to our Substacks. Subscribe to the newsletter so you can on the vigilant.news website. There's a place where you can put in your email and you'll get every time we post something on there. We're going to be doing a lot of good stuff here. We'll also be probably starting to do more private stuff in the locals. So definitely sign up for that. And as Ryan was saying, I mean, what you see on the show is like a tiny fraction of the stuff that we often pour our interest into. So we're going to definitely, this situation experience has definitely caused us to get motivated to start doing more with that. Any comments as we close out?
Not much. Just I'm about to hop on a call with Adam Riva from Dauntless Dialogue. So the content train, if you like Time of Deceit, it ain't going to be stopping anytime soon. There's a lot more stuff in the works.
Yeah, definitely check out Dauntless Dialogue too, guys. Dauntless does amazing work. I'll show you guys what the website looks like real quick so you can just see it. But this is Dauntless Dialogue right here. A good friend of mine, Adam Riva. He does amazing work. Really great guy. Awesome family. And yeah, I think we got some definitely good stuff happening. Also, don't forget, everybody, we've got this event that we're going to be putting on here. So this event is going to be on Trump's birthday, Friday, June 14th. We are putting it together. We will have a website. We'll have a place to sign up. We're going to have a digital birthday card for you to send happy birthday to Trump. So we'll encourage you to share that around. And ideally, we want to get as many people to show up as this is possible, because our hope is that we get so many people to come that DJT himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Donald Trump, actually will make an appearance or maybe even record a video for us for his birthday celebration. So let's celebrate the greatest patriot in living memory, Donald J. Trump. All right. All right, everybody. Well, with that, much love. And we will see you next time. I think next week we're going to be doing the show same time, I guess, for a little while until we figure out something.
Yes, and then we might even start doing something on Thursday, it sounds like, too. We're going to be trying to keep you guys updated. So if you're not following us in the Telegram and on social media and all that, try to figure it out. If you are on Facebook, I'm talking to PJW right now and Shannon. We have a Vigilant News Facebook group. As far as like an internet place where there's a hub and a community, unfortunately, that's the biggest one. I know a lot of people aren't on Facebook anymore, but it is the place for now where we have the most kind of people gathered. And definitely use our Telegram to stay up to date on stuff as well.
Yeah, the Telegram's good too. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's it. We'll figure out what the new time is going to be. Kind of like probably around 8 or 9 o'clock prime time kind of slot on Monday, and then maybe something a little earlier on Thursday or in the same time bracket. I mean, when we were still at Badlands, a lot of people were like, "You guys should do a show more than once a week." So we're thinking if it's going to help, that maybe we'll start doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're really going to try. We're going to try to get some more content creators on our platform or maybe another platform. I've been talking to a good friend of mine. I won't say anything publicly, but we've been talking for years, and he's got a pretty good sized following about creating another platform. And he's really gung ho because there's, let's just say there's a lot of opportunity for everybody who's a content creator to make plenty of money, so you don't have to work a 9 to 5 and support your family and community, and create a place where patriots can gather in love and fellowship and really start to move the freedom needle down the bar here. And that's what we want to do. And I've had that dream for a while. So keep us in your prayers, that kind of thing. So, all right, everybody, much love. Don't forget to check the vigilant.news. You can find links to the Telegram, to all of our socials in there. And we'll see you next time on Vigilant News. Much love and take care.